Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Grant and Connor's Power Hour, Volume 6. This is the 6th episode. And today I tasked Grant with a little homework. He ended up watching The Toxic Avenger at my request. Grant, tell me a bit about The Toxic Avenger. Let's hear it.
It's definitely a movie. It's people definitely worked on it. Got some. I don't know. I think I might be the worst person to talk about it. No real connection to it whatsoever.
My question is, did you make it through?
I did. It took three sessions, but I finally made it through. And it's not like I thought it was like awful or anything. I don't know why. I've never been able to connect to those movies
with the concept, or just the humor doesn't work for you.
I don't know what it is, because it's like it seems like something that would be up my alley. I like trash. I'm not like a snob. And it's definitely like there's a lot of merit to it, and it's something that I definitely like respect more than I enjoy in a way.
See, I like digging stuff out of the trash can, so to speak. I'm big into
Where?
Not literally, but I mean like
you put me on this really horrible shit.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, I think The Toxic Avenger is kind of an adventure. I watched all 4 of them for this podcast. It's a really interesting ride, I suppose, in that all 4 movies are exactly the same, and all of them feel like they're about a half hour too long at least. Like, these feel like they should be and would be like 15-minute web skits if they came out later.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess that was why it was so hard for me to I don't know to finish it. Like I don't know. It just didn't grab my attention at all. I kind of kept asking myself, "Where's this going?"
Yeah, I don't. It felt like something that had like one draft, and they kind of just went with it, you know. Like
it's definitely.
It's filmed competently for a grindhouse movie. At times, it feels like something that would play in like a New York porno theater of the era, more so than it would play in a cinema, or you would just find it in the bargain bin.
Yeah, which is funny. I did a little research after I watched it, and I was reading about Lloyd Kaufman, and I know he's kind of like the Kevin Smith of like the 80s when it comes to like independent film, which is cool. Have a lot of
It's kind of an apt comparison. They both have their own little universes.
Both started their own studios. Both, they're both from Jersey, I think.
Kevin Smith.
At least.
Kevin Smith has somewhat more of a wide appeal. I feel like
kind of like populist, very much just like we're gonna entertain. We're not trying to do anything. We're not trying to push any boundaries or we're not trying to make some huge statement. But coincidentally they end up really genuinely like pushing the boundaries of what it takes to make a movie, which is really cool. Comparing to Kevin Smith, Clerks has a huge. It's a significant moment for American independent cinema, and I think with Kaufman's work with Trauma, it's definitely like in the same belongs in the same conversation.
Yeah, I almost guarantee you that if Kevin Smith hasn't talked directly to Lloyd Kaufman in a podcast or something, he's probably talked about him, and I would be curious what his interests, or what the aligning interests are, or what they, because they definitely have a lot in common.
For sure. Yeah,
I didn't even make that connection, honestly. And I think I probably should have, because they're both like, you have to be a fan of Kevin Smith or you have to be a fan of Troma. Like, these movies are absolutely awful. I think in both realms. There's a couple, like, you got Toxic Avenger, which is kind of just like a cheap superhero movie, and they get more Troma as it goes on, where you have to subscribe to Lardass and you have to subscribe to Sergeant Kabuki Man and all these weird recurring characters and stuff, and just the world that they've created.
There's a lore.
There's a lore, and they get more attached to that lore and more comfortable in the lore. And I think what Lloyd Kaufman's downfall is kind of similar to Kevin Smith's, where you really have to subscribe to this lore. Like, if you were to watch, like, Terror Firmer, or you were to watch, like, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and having seen nothing else, it would be totally confusing.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
I feel
but
like
in the end, like
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think to that extent, there is something that's kind of respectable about it, because clearly,
for sure.
Clearly, this like struck a chord with people, and there is some significance to it, because I mean, there's people that really love these movies. I mean, like I'm in Austin, and I work not even a block away from original Alamo Draft House, and there's all these towards the end of the year in October, there's Fantastic Fest and a bunch of film festivals in Austin, but Alamo puts on Fantastic Fest, and there's this huge rollout for Toxic Avenger. It's like this big pull this year.
That's awesome.
So clearly, like, there's some kind of significance that people latch on to, that for whatever reason, it just doesn't grab me.
I mean, it's very similar to what, continuing on the Kevin Smith train, I mean, it's the same thing with him. Like, I went to see his road show with my old bartender at the theater, and he totally, he was a rock star in his own circles, and everybody was screaming one-liners. I was definitely kind of the odd one out. I've seen most of Kevin Smith's movies, but I'm not a religious Kevin Smith fan. The Smart Universe, or whatever he calls it, View Askew Universe.
I would say out of the two of us, I think I might be more of a Kevin Smith fan. I'm not. I'm definitely not as in tune as I used to be. Where, like, in high school, that was very much like it was one of those filmmakers that for some reason I really like paid attention to.
Well, I gotta send out that copy of Dressed to Kill still. I can send you one of my Kevin Smith signed scripts. I'll send you Clerks 3 because I don't really like that movie.
Right.
I
never saw that.
Clerks 2. Clerks 3 is an interesting movie. Have you been spoiled on Clerks 3?
I know the cliff notes. Like, it's about like Randall has a heart attack and has this new outlook on life, and they start to make a movie, and it's like they're making the original Clerks.
That's basically it. Like, it's an okay movie. They play Welcome to the Black Parade in its entirety, which is a really good song by My Chemical Romance. I can give him that much for sure.
That's awesome.
I like that song. It's a good one. That's just how they open the movie. Is Kevin Smith's just like, I want to play this entire song because I'm friends with the guy who is the main singer of My Chemical Romance, and he kind of told the story at the movie premiere. I guess he's done some podcasts with him. I don't think they have like a podcast together, but I think the My Chemical Romance guy was on a couple of his podcasts, and he's just like,
Gerard Way is a comic book writer and artist, and
right.
Kevin Smith has done that as well, and so I guarantee they've absolutely crossed paths.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. So he played the entire song. I saw My Chemical Romance live. That was a good concert. But yeah, I mean, Toxic Avenger well enough filmed. It's occasionally funny, but it is something where I agree with your method of piecemealing it, because I watched Toxic Avenger 1, I skipped a day, then I watched 2 and 3 in one sitting, which was probably the longest 4 hours of my life, and then I watched Toxic Avenger 4. And while I find them all to be alright movies, because I subscribe to the world, much like you're more of the Kevin Smith fan, and I'm more of the Lloyd Kaufman fan. I can get behind the edgy humor of Lloyd Kaufman for a while, but eventually it starts to weigh on me. It's not like, I think didn't we watch these together in middle school? At least the first one, or who did I watch?
Definitely saw the first one.
This was on Netflix for a time. Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of subscribed to the world.
There was definitely that little time where we were very much into like the angry video game nerd, and I just remember he had that what is it, kind of like a little series around October. He would talk about just horror movies, but then eventually branched out into like sci-fi, like genre, and he
Monster Madness,
the Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he actually had Lloyd Kaufman on an
definitely
episode of Angry Video Game Nerd, and probably when I was in high school, so 10 years ago now, like 2014, 10 years ago.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, so full circle.
Yeah, so it all came full circle. He had him on an episode, and it was kind of his unfunny, desperate era, but me and Grant Newkirk kind of shit on AVGN last episode, so I won't talk too much crap in this one. Not that he'll ever see or care. No, it's fine. I just, I feel bad. I like him. We were looking at his videos, and he's like, it's kind of sad because over the last 5 years, his hairline goes back an inch a year. Which, I mean, he's old, so he can lose his hair. It's not a big deal, but it's kind of funny at the same time.
When is the AVGN retrospective series happening?
Oh, you mean like how we had the Nostalgia Critic? Never.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. Maybe I'll dedicate a full episode to the Angry Video Game Nerd sometime instead of just shading him on episodes. Yeah, so... I told you what happened to my old co-host. That was unfortunate. What do you think of Joe's turn to the dark side? Metaphorically.
I don't want to say. I mean, I don't know. I only heard things from you.
The one-sided story.
I don't want to. Yeah. I mean,
I was just kidding. I don't know what happened with him, but anyways, I guess moving on. Like, do you have any other thoughts on Toxic Avenger?
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess I kind of there was a little moment when I was watching it that I was kind of trying to figure out what it was about.
Yeah.
And obviously, like the main kind of catalyst for the making it was they clearly just wanted to make something that would entertain people.
Sure.
But I'm curious if you picked up on it, specifically the first one. because to me, and I might be digging too deep. I don't know anything about Lloyd Kaufman's, politics or anything like that. But to me, it seemed like there was a little bit of a reaction to like Reagan era policy in regards to like the chemical waste stuff. Is that whole toxic waste dump little subplot that goes nowhere, where they're like, oh, if we dump it, if we have to change location, it's going to be a couple, however certain distance away from like the reservoir and like stuff like that. Or specifically, there was like there's that scene early on when I guess the antagonist, I guess, like the crazy people in the car,
yeah,
and they run over the kid. And they're like, there's like the way that scene ends is they're like, let's go do it. Let's go find some other people to just murder. And then the one guy just like, I have to go to church in the morning. And they're like, okay. Like that's got to be there for a reason. And I guess like the only thing I could think of is just like, is Lloyd Kaufman trying to make a statement about just Reagan's America.
I don't think it's an entirely intelligent satire. It's not a political satire, but there's definitely reflections of the time, because I was watching Terror Firmer, and I think that was like just pre 9/11 2001, but it very much felt like there was a hint of that different like 90s, early 2000s, pre 9/11, like just like the perfection of America vibe, and switching back to a more Republican president with George Bush. And I don't know exactly when it was recorded, but yeah, and I would be interested to see some of those movies that came out like post 9/11, and apparently they're doing a remake.
Yeah, I saw that. Macon Blair from I know he's done a lot of stuff like Jeremy Saulnier.
Yeah, with Peter Dinklage starring.
He's like writing.
I don't know if Peter Dinklage would play Melvin / the Toxic Avenger, but that would be interesting, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like reading that, I'm definitely. Like, I have no. I have no interest in seeing any of the sequels. But I am kind of interested in this remake.
Yeah, the sequels are weird. I want to touch on them briefly. I think my favorite one is Toxic Avenger 2. He goes to Japan, and each movie was prefaced with an introduction by Lloyd Kaufman, recorded when the Blu-ray and DVD sets came out.
Yeah, I remember,
which were kind of weird.
The first time in like middle school, there was the one where he just straight up started smoking crack.
Yeah, they're a weird opening. They definitely. I'd be interested to see what Lloyd Kaufman would direct today, because, I mean, he was doing these movies like well into his 60s. I don't know the last time he's made a movie, but the dude's like 80 now almost. So he wasn't young when he made these.
Yeah, he would have been what, like 40?
Yeah, these feel like movies. And I feel like a lot of the people he employed were very young and rambunctious group.
There's a lot of like, energy.
He made he directed Tromeo and Juliet, which was written by James Gunn, who I think is the most notable Troma graduate. Absolutely. And he wrote the book that Terror Firmer is based on. So, it's kind of interesting. He surrounds himself with these younger people who just have a lot of energy, and all of his movies feel very energetic. And I wonder how much of that is actually Lloyd, and how much was lifted up by the people he surrounded himself with. I would be very interested to meet him as a person and see what he's truly like. He also started in pornography, which I think isn't entirely surprising, based on the fact that most of the sex scenes he look straight out of like Sex World or Misty Beethoven or something. It's bizarre, but it's I guess it's authentic to pornography. I guess it's a little weird.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, man. But it's just something I noticed. It's like a directorial touch. It's like reverse porn now, where the sex scenes are the boring stuff and Toxic Avenger running amok is the story.
Yeah, a little bit.
I wouldn't especially Toxic Avenger 4, I wouldn't entirely not consider it like a softcore pornography. That's a weird movie.
Really?
The ending's kind of funny. There's like funny moments, but actually watching them entirely, it does feel like sitting there and relentlessly watching 8 hours of just bizarre parody. Although the Toxic Avenger predates the Ninja Turtles, and kind of has that same like toxic commentary. The Toxic Avenger is made by Toxic Waste in a similar way. Superheroes in the 60s were kind of made by radiation, so it's kind of a different form of pollution. I don't know if there's something to that or not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Lloyd Kaufman ever went on to make something particularly smart. So I don't know how much. I mean, he's definitely sort of an auteur for what it is.
Yeah. I mean,
he's just a bizarre individual.
You definitely. I mean, aside from the fact that his name is plastered over over everything trauma, it is very much like he's got his own style and way of doing things. And like I said, I think it's cool that he's been able to make a name for himself and have his following, and he clearly just likes making movies with his friends, which is cool.
Right.
There's this like kind of nice like feeling that you get. You're like, I mean, like the guy, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah. I also like how they're grimy and cheap, even when you would think like, with like the money he made off of like the comics and cartoon series they made of the Toxic Avenger for some reason, you would think like that money would allow them to make like a big PG-13 thing. Because like you look at Paul Verhoeven, for example, all of his big movies have sequels. And you would think at some point Lloyd Kaufman would be like, I'm just going to sell off Toxic Avenger and they can make their PG-13 like Toxic Avenger more serious reboot, which I almost fear is what this reboot's going to be. But at the same time, I don't care that much about the sanctity of the Toxic Avenger. So, that's kind of my thinking. But, yeah, no, because Paul Verhoeven would, like, Total Recall got a remake. RoboCop had 2 sequels and a remake. Even Basic Instinct had a sequel. So, it brought to mind Paul Verhoeven for some reason, who I think is a much more intelligent satirist.
I would absolutely agree with that. I guess like the thing is that all of those sequels, to my knowledge, Verhoeven doesn't really have much to do with them.
No,
I mean maybe like an EP credit. On some,
I'm sure
but
he gets some sort of kickback for creating a concept and then them making money. But
but there's I think there's something very special about. I think there's something very special about Kaufman
protecting,
maintaining. It's clearly something that he cares about. Clearly something that means something to him.
Right. All these dumb characters mean a lot to him.
And not to say that with Verhoeven, because I've seen quite a few interviews with him and stuff. He's clearly very proud of his body of work. But I don't know. Like there is something very endearing to him.
Yeah, I mean he could have. I mean the other thing too is we're talking about very independent work, where Verhoeven couldn't have made RoboCop. Well, I'm sure he could have with cardboard boxes and cheap makeup effects, but it would be a lot harder to make something like a RoboCop independently.
It wouldn't have the appeal.
Right. It wouldn't be this huge movie as well. I mean, even like the Blu-ray I bought seems somewhat independent. Sorry, I was kicking Curtis out of my room because he's sifting around. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's an interesting grindhouse movie, with some interesting grindhouse sequels, and I see how it gained a cult. It would probably be very fun to see with an audience at like midnight, probably more so than sitting in my room stone-faced watching the Toxic Avenger series in one sitting. Or in a couple sittings.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, I like to torture myself. I actually was inspired for this episode because, like, the first week I started this podcast, I watched Terror Firmer, and I was like, I want to watch those Toxic Avenger movies again, like when I was a kid. And I watched them again, and they were fine, but I removed a full star from Toxic Avenger 4. I thought that shit was so funny when I saw it. I was probably like 18 and just blitzed out my mind in college, and I thought it was the funniest movie ever, and then not so much anymore. I mean, there's funny moments, but it's a little too much for me these days. I think I'm too old for the Toxic Avenger. That's my thesis. I'm too old for the movie made by like a 65-year-old man. But, you know, I had fun.
You gotta grow up.
I had fun. I got bored. Yeah. I feel like I watch a lot more movies these days, and it's just like, I love myself some Grindhouse, but I've seen so many different Grindhouse movies now. Have you, and you kind of got me back into physical media to like a crippling extent when you told me about the Criterion half-off sale a couple years ago. I bought that Godzilla box set, and now I have 2 bookshelves full of movies. You know, some of them are old, some of them I already owns. I used to buy a handful of movies every year, and now I buy a handful every week. But I love, like, Vinegar Syndrome, and I love Criterion and stuff. And
I do love with the explosion of Criterion that a lot of these boutique Blu-ray labels have also kind of gotten a boost. Like, I mean, Arrow has done really well. Vinegar Syndrome, Kino, which is cool. I think it gives me hope, especially with like how the industry is kind of up in the air with streaming right now.
Well, see, it's interesting because you got theaters in trouble. Like AMC's got a big bill coming up. They say AMC's going bankrupt all the time, but it'll eventually happen. And you got streaming up in the air, especially with the strikes right now, which we can touch on more later. But the profitability's in question. They're not making money, and essentially if they want more products, they're going to have to start shelling out more money. And it's interesting.
Absolutely.
Which I think fair enough, but when you make a stupid business model and then overbloat it with 20 different businesses, it's not sustainable. But regardless,
look at Netflix's handling of Glass Onion last year. They put it in theaters for 2 weeks, and it did exceptionally well for a movie that you could only see in 2 weeks, that everyone knew was eventually just going to be on Netflix in like a month. But it did really well. People went out to see if they didn't extend it because it clearly would kind of be kind of the antithesis of their whole business model that they built up for the last 15 years.
Right. Well, touching on physical media more.
Spot.
Right. touching on physical media more, did you hear that Netflix in Australia is no longer releasing physical discs after Guardians 3?
Yeah, I saw that, and I mean, honestly, it makes me feel sick.
It really it makes me sad, and it is kind of ironic that we're coming to an age where you know, that I mean that's a sign that if this works out and it proves that the bottom line, if more money is generated not doing physical media, which it probably will, like they're gonna just cut that off, and it's gonna be boutique labels carrying it on their shoulders. And I mean, they don't have the facility to release every major release, so a lot of stuff is gonna be a lot harder to get a hold of. Like, I already had to make myself pirated copies of like Prey, and a couple, and like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, because I want those physically, but I also don't have Netflix anymore or Hulu. So
Yeah, me neither. I think the thing that's frightening to me is they have the such power to just pull those from their platform. I mean, look at Paramount Plus. They had that. It was like the Grease television series. It's called like Rise of the Pink Ladies or something. And it had only been out for a couple months, and they just completely wiped it off of their platform because it just didn't have as big of an audience as they hoped for it, and they just completely pulled it. And then not even a month after it gets pulled, it's been nominated for Emmys. Creative arts Emmys. I think it was costume design. It was either costume or production design. And there's no way for you to access that and to watch it. I mean, and the show could have been a big piece of shit, but that's besides the point. It's kind of like the thing with Batgirl is, all these people were like cheering about it being scrap. Because of the circles I've been around, there's a guy on my Facebook that I keep around because he's very, very funny because he's just so fucking stupid. But he's an independent filmmaker, and I don't want to give out too much info because that's just rude. But he's an independent filmmaker, but he was like celebrating the fact that this Batgirl movie had been scrapped.
For the sanctity of the Snyderverse or something, or what was he so happy about?
I mean, part of it, he's a Snyder fanboy, but he's also he's very conservative. I'm not trying to like point fingers or anything, but he's very conservative, and he was just complaining about how the movie was woke because Batgirl and white, and there was a non-binary actor who had a prominent role in the movie, but he's just like the score one for those against the woke mob, and it's like, dude, the fact that you are an independent filmmaker, the fact that a studio can scrap a project that you potentially work on for almost for a full year that is like almost done. I mean, it was done filming, it was done, it was in the last stretch of like post-production, and they just completely wipe it. You cannot find it, and to me that's like terrifying. I mean, truthfully, I was not looking forward to Batgirl. I probably wasn't even going to watch. The fact that you can work on something for almost a year and put so much time and dedication into a project, and it could be a big piece of shit. But regardless, like the fact that it's no longer available is just like horrifying to me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I would have watched Batgirl. It was by the Bad Boys for Life creators, so I did not expect to enjoy Batgirl. But you know what? It's somebody's work, and the fact that the studio's like, well, we made a little bit more money not releasing it, or we were able to. It wouldn't have made a profit, so if we write it off, we can make more from the government. Like, it's ridiculous. And also, like, on behalf of the guy on Facebook, the independent filmmaker, like, imagine getting your big break and then just having like Warner Brothers or Disney pull the plug or something when you're at the finish line. Not even I blew my chance before it started. It was my movie's done, ready for release, and then they see on like fucking BuzzFeed that your movie was canceled Because if I remember correctly, they heard from like news outlets, like
Yeah,
Variety reported
yes,
it before
yeah.
they were
They were
told
out of the
officially.
country. I believe they were at like a wedding or something, like some sort of function.
Not even like a phone call
And
from the producers or anything. Like that sucks,
that might,
man.
yeah, it's crazy to me.
I mean, and they can't legally release it anymore, which I assume is the same thing with like Pink Ladies or whatever. And I know Star Trek Prodigy had the same thing where Star Trek Prodigy wasn't popular, so they cut it from Disney or from Paramount Plus, and it's just deleted.
Yeah,
So now the
isn't
DVDs are going for like $200.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't that at least get a physical release?
That did,
Just
so
something.
so you don't have to make bootlegs.
But yeah.
But I think if anything, it's just it promotes piracy really, because Prey is like 2 years old. Like I gave them every chance to release it and let me buy it legally, but finally I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna print it to a disc for free. Or I should say for the 25 cents that it costed me for a Blu-ray disc. Beautiful 1080p. I would like a 4K of Prey, because I've heard it's a good movie. I'm excited to watch it, but they pulled my hand, man. And I don't really feel bad when these companies like put it on themselves, really. I mean, I guess Hulu isn't a huge culprit, but I know like Warner Brothers even like sold the rights to a big chunk of their Warner Brothers back catalog, like classic Warner Brothers cartoons, like Tex Avery cartoons that aren't allowed to be on HBO due to like shady deals or something. It's weird, man.
Yeah.
Streaming just sucks in general.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Especially since HBO had such a good library when they started. And a lot of these places had such good library. I get losing non-original content when it gets transferred over or something. What I think they should do is streaming services should come out with like... They gotta like... Paramount and Universal have to like merge or something. I hate to say like less studios the better. But... I mean... If the streaming bubble is gonna pop the way it is, I don't know. Or just make less shit and put in more quality. I don't know what the best way is.
I don't really have. I don't really have an answer.
No, me neither. Unfortunately, but if I
I'm
did, I would hopefully be getting paid to say it. Yeah, no. That's why I'm an advocate for physical media, though, because, like, it's nice. Like, I do have a bunch of movies on Vudu, but I mostly just, like, download my digital codes so I can watch them on my discless Xbox, which seems ironic that I have a discless Xbox when I'm streaming, when I'm against streaming a little bit, but, you know, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? You know.
Hey, I got a 4K player. I support the medium, man. I still have my Xbox One hanging around though, because I can't do BDRs on Xbox One or on my 4K player for some reason. Anti-piracy or some shit. And I have a lot of like movies, because I'll like download shit off YouTube, movies that are like in the gray market where they haven't been like legally released since VHS, and like the company's out of business, so it's like it's not really public domain. But if no one's stopping people from posting it on YouTube, I'm just gonna download this to a disc. Lots of like martial arts movies and stuff. Some good channels for that. But yeah, I guess also I feel like with physical media I've diversified my film watching a lot. Like Criterion's a good way to like get into more foreign films. But even like Arrow has like the Shaw Brothers sets. I bought a beautiful set for Ringu, like the Ring trilogy from Japan. It's pretty cool.
I've seen that. Yes.
Yeah, they have it. I think they had it. I don't think the most recent Barnes & Noble sale had Arrow on sale. But I do always recommend Arrow to people. Also, you can get some good like spaghetti westerns and stuff through them. Like I got Django, Prepare a Coffin, and all of that. I got like 5 Django films now.
Definitely browse Arrow a little bit. I will say their Blu-ray release of Billy Wilder's is spectacular. It's a really wonderful transfer. It's got some really fun features to it. That's more my speed as opposed to I know Arrow has a lot of genre specialty to along those lines.
Right.
More of like the pulpy stuff, which I have a soft spot for in a way, but just not in the terms of like I want to own it.
No, I get that for sure. I mean, a lot of stuff like Arrow and Vinegar Syndrome put out, you can track down on YouTube in some shitty ass print. But sometimes I feel like I fall into the physical media trap though, of like Arrow putting out a beautiful set for something, and then I pay like $60 for it and realize I could have just bought a movie I actually care about for $20. I'm kind of bad about that.
Definitely been there. I will say they've got the Michael Mann's backpack coming out recently. I think it's next month, I believe. But
oh, really?
Very much looking forward to that. One thing I like about them is they will usually get if there is some sort of extended cut or alternate cut. They usually do a good job of tracking and seeing the Criterion.
Yeah, no, Criterion's good with that. Like I said, I kind of like martial arts films and stuff, and Bruce Lee's kind of the gold standard, even though I think Bruce Lee as a character is better than his films usually are. But they kind of repiece together Game of Death, because the original Game of Death is just a weird movie where they kind of just like pieced together a bit of what they had and got like body doubles and stuff to finish the movie like 5 years after his death. But with the Redux version by Criterion, it's only like 45 minutes, but it's as he like originally intended. So it's obviously an incomplete movie, but it's still really cool to kind of see that and have like more of an accurate version. I think. I mean, I just did a Jackie Chan episode, so I won't talk too much about martial arts films. He could get me going. Yeah, I mean, I almost think, like, in a way, if physical media died from the major companies, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, in that, always, at least, like, if they focus more on putting out prestige legacy titles, I would be fine with that. Or letting other people put out prestige titles and just putting out new stuff. That would be my ideal world. Like, give Casablanca, give like Criterion a chance with Casablanca. Maybe pack in some like other movies by the director, because sometimes they'll do that, and just give us a really beautiful box art and stuff. I wouldn't hate that, even though Casablanca's a bad example, because Warner actually has been putting a lot of really good 4Ks out for their 100th anniversary this year.
I mean, that's what I like about Criterion. The secret to them is that they really just get the stuff that they can afford. But there is significance to the label that does attract a certain audience, which can lead to a whole new generation discovering something or rediscovering.
Oh, for sure. I also think they just have the most clout of the boutique labels.
Absolutely.
Maybe the only one that would be comparable is like Shout Factory in terms of scale. But Shout Factory also
Yeah,
gets a lot of mainstream stuff that they put out as kind of side ventures, and then have their boutique stuff on the side, because you sometimes will see like, oh, Shout Factory just put out the old Transformers cartoon and stuff. So it's sometimes they do more mainstream stuff. And I guess occasionally they'll dip into that, like with Netflix's partnership with Criterion they had for a while, which I thought was an awesome solution to the problem. Like Prey, for example. I keep talking about Prey, but what if like Arrow got to put out a beautiful Prey set and it was just somewhat limited? I think that would be a good compromise if they want people to stream it, because only people who are probably not going to stream it anyways are going to buy the Arrow release. It's like free money. You don't even got to make it yourself. Or whatever label, Criterion too. I'm sure Criterion would put out Prey and pretend it was the best movie that ever happened. That is one thing about recent Criterion, like The Irishman and Marriage Story. They do have a level of quality control, but they're definitely allowing more mainstream things into the collection lately.
Yeah, but I mean, in to be fair, the Netflix movies that they put out are like genuinely great. Like, I know Roma is part of the collection. And that feels very significant. Same thing with the Irishman. I think that it's like top tier Scorsese.
Right. And they do balance it. Like WALL-E's a fantastic movie. If you're gonna have a Disney Pixar movie in the collection, like why not WALL-E? I would have picked Toy Story probably. Justifiably, I think.
Much more significant.
Because WALL-E's just a really good animated film, but Toy Story is actually like super significant. I don't know how much of it was like protection, because Toy Story has the whole brand behind it, and I hope I see more of these partnerships. I wonder how much Disney was just like throwing some bait in the water to kind of see what, or throwing some blood in the water to see if it would be viable to like work with companies like Criterion and Shout Factory and stuff. I would love to see more like catalog stuff come out. Like I think Shout Factory could put out like a really fun like Flight of the Navigator. Arrow would do a super cool Tron. I know you just got to fit it for like the audience, but I doubt they want to put the effort into curate and pick and choose where they're sending stuff. I'm also sure Disney's probably a pain in the ass to collaborate with. I mean, I was a movie theater manager for like 4 years. I know how it goes with Disney firsthand. The rumors are true. Believe it or not, Disney is a fucking headache to deal with. But yeah, no, it was. I don't know. I also think a lot of like really good stuff's coming out soon with Criterion. Like, have you seen they're doing Todd Browning's Freaks trilogy?
That was crazy.
That shit interests me, because it's like, oh, pre-Dracula Todd Browning. I've heard of his Freaks trilogy, and I was interested to watch them, but now I have a convenient way to do it. Just pay $50 at Barnes & Noble. Actually, I think I have that pre-ordered on Amazon right now. Yeah, no, it's been pretty good. Do you want to talk about the strikes a little bit, since I haven't actually talked about those on the podcast. Most of these episodes have devolved into other topics, and I've yet to tackle the strikes. What's your take? Do you think the actors should get back to work so we can see more Marvel movies?
I think they should get back to work when the writers and actors are struck a fair deal and are getting paid. I'm very pro-strike, very pro-union. And this it's something I've been following moderately closer than like the average person.
Sure.
I would say, this stuff is very interesting to me. would say. Honestly, I hope the DGA strikes too.
Yeah, for real. I heard that there's a chance
Around
that I heard that the visual effects people are thinking about trying to unionize after how Marvel has been running sweatshops of them basically
Yes,
and
they
underpaying,
they have
overworking.
unionized.
I hope that works out for them.
There's been movements for unionization for some group of people who work with reality TV, as well. And I hope those go through because people really deserve to be protected and paid fairly for the work they do. You know, not to turn this into a socialist podcast. When it's majority of people are making product that creates profit. It's kind of shitty when a very small few are the only ones reaping the benefits from that.
Right. Well, I also think like we've seen similar things with like music and Spotify and stuff, and it's like, well, our businesses aren't profitable, but you're paying your CEO $10 billion a year to sit there and reap in the benefits of other people, whether or not your business is profitable. Like, it's ridiculous that the relative little guy is getting shit on. I just hope that I hope it works out because Hollywood actors and actresses can be snobby and overpaid, but I would rather see the more snobby and more overpaid executives lose money.
A lot of like snobby and overpaid actors on the media we think of and make it striking. Oh, don't they have enough money? Most of those actors are not union members because they've been able to branch out and carve out and create a team that is able to
make them a lot of money,
make them fair deals, and be paid for what they're worth. Because
but even they're getting fucked over a little bit. Like, you look at Scarlett Johansson had this big deal with the Black Widow movie, and then, I mean, part of that was COVID, but also Disney's like, what if we just released it on Disney Plus and cut her percentage out of the deal?
Yeah. I mean, these studios and these corporations, they look for any reason to squeeze out as much profit and to for themselves.
They're fucking shysters, man.
I am totally fine with productions being halted and no movies coming out until the people who are actively working on them are
fairly paid. I also think maybe the executives can take some time and restructure instead of releasing blockbusters literally 5 times a week and saying, well, why aren't these profitable? And then you get a quality movie like Barbie or Oppenheimer that actually makes money. And in a week where 2 movies released. It's weird how that works.
Look at Paramount's handling of Mission Impossible. I mean, that's a $300 million movie that at this point, I know that the general rule of thumb is, you need to make back twice your production budget to account for marketing before you start seeing profit. And I mean, it's not even, it hasn't even broke even.
Right. Well, that came out a week after. Actually, I think it was 2 weeks after Transformers. I don't know if anything came out a week before it directly, but then it comes out and then it has no fucking runway. Not to mention, Mission Impossible is like an IMAX premium theater movie, and it instantly lost the premium theaters after a week's running time. Like, Tom Cruise shouldn't be making a flop 2 immediately after Top Gun. The big thing that doesn't add up is they should have released it later. This summer was so packed, every week was something new. So movies are just being set up to fail, and studios are going to look at that and be like, well, this isn't a viable franchise. It's like, no, you just acted like an idiot, and everybody got super competitive this summer and had a stack of movie scripts from COVID, and now they're starting to come out, but they're coming out too much. Transformers flopped. That wasn't a very good movie, but realistically, a Transformers movie shouldn't flop.
the interesting thing to me is it seems like a lot of movies that were expected to be big hits are kind of underperforming.
Right.
Which is like vice versa. Like Wes Anderson's Asteroid City had the largest opening for any of his films.
Well, that one released really wide. I don't know how Wes Anderson's movies always work. Wes Anderson had 2 movies come out while I was managing the theater, Asteroid City and French Dispatch. And French Dispatch didn't even come to my theater till like 3 weeks later for no reason. And then Asteroid City just released wide.
There are theories that Disney was intentionally like butchering the release of a lot of Fox Searchlight, a lot of Searchlight films that were greenlit or produced while it was under Fox's ownership.
Right.
Look at the rollout with Nightmare Alley, West Side Story. Compared to, they put them out. Put West Side Story before Spider-Man, and Nightmare Alley wide when Spider-Man went wide, which is ridiculous.
Right. No,
and so there's a lot of like hearsay about it. Nothing's ever been confirmed, but it's pretty blatant. That's what they're doing.
It wouldn't surprise me if they were just, dumping the excess. I mean, that's what they kind of did with like New Mutants, and just Fox in general. They kind of wanted to be gone, even with the Hollywood productions. Like, they spent the $10 million to whip New Mutants into shape because it got rescheduled like 20 times, and it seems like Fox put a fuckload of money into it, and then Disney put in this bare bones marketing campaign and just dropped it, basically. And that movie was a trash hole. But like in general, I also feel like I don't know. I just feel like it's not totally surprising, just like how they were putting them out. And also, I think something like Asteroid City has the advantage that it was such a big bombastic summer where it's just action movie after action movie. Most of which had pretty low quality, and for something kind of smaller and more quaint that probably did well with like older audiences and film geeks and stuff like us. So that's why like I enjoyed Asteroid City quite a bit. It's not like a favorite Wes Anderson, but it's good.
Yeah, it's great. He's consistently like quality stuff in my eyes. I'm a noted Anderson apologist. I'll run up to it. For me, it just works.
Right.
I'm not sick of the style. I'm sick of his approach to filmmaking. I find it very charming. But that's just like one example. I don't think anyone's expected Oppenheimer to do as well as it's done right now. It's on track to gross like 600 million. And I don't think even Universal was expecting it to do as well as it has been. I think they're shooting more for like a 300 million range, and then bank on Nolan doing some kind of Inception, Interstellar type movie afterwards. Going forward.
Right.
Barbie, I think was done a lot better than expected to.
Barbie's in like the top 10 most high-grossing domestic movies, and internationally, I think it's almost at $1 billion.
It's
in the top 25, I think. Actually, I don't think it's top 10 yet for domestic, but it's doing very well. Is my point.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Part of it is that we're getting constant for us now because you look at Marvel, and Disney as a whole. All of their tentpole releases have underperformed. Guardians of the Galaxy has done well. But it's made less money than Guardians 2 with a higher budget. So,
right.
I don't know if you can.
Well, you look at Ant-Man. Ant-Man's the lowest. Ant-Man 3 is the lowest grossing in the trilogy, And
Yeah,
I can't imagine the
yeah.
Marvels is going to change uh, the directory. I'd be surprised if it made as much as the first
No,
Captain Marvel.
and
But if
seeing IMAX commit to Dune instead of the Marvels is pretty crazy.
oh yeah,
I think so far it's been really interesting. Box office wise this year. I mean, nobody expected Top Gun Maverick to do as well as it did last year. I'm pretty sure the only person who expected Avatar to do as well last year is James Cameron. But I think
Yeah.
there's something really significant about people going to see movies because they are legitimately interested, or there's something that captures the feeling of like this needs to be seen in the theater.
I'm very happy that the cinematic universe's bubble is imploded upon itself, and that studios are looking now, hopefully, and seeing that interesting movies make more money than what if we made a Transformers movie that teases at the end that G.I. Joes are going to be in the next one too. No one gives a shit anymore.
Don't hold your breath. Look at Mattel's response to Barbie in terms of green lighting. A bunch of movies now.
But once those fail,
I don't think we need a lot of them.
What did they greenlight? I didn't even hear about this.
I know the big we're talking about is the Polly Pocket movie written and directed by Lena Dunham.
That seems like a big rip-off of Barbie. Made by the people. The studio of Barbie is bringing you a Polly Pocket movie that's going to be a huge rip-off of Barbie.
Yeah.
Because Lena Dunham is just a significantly worse Greta Gerwig.
I would agree. Girls.
It's like Kevin Smith and Lloyd Kaufman.
Was a good first few seasons, and then it quickly really lost my interest. And I'm not a big fan. I personally or professionally, I'm just not a fan.
Yeah,
but there was like another one, like Daniel Kaluuya is going to be in a Barney movie.
That's going to be kind of epic. I've heard that. I did hear about that. But I think they're going to be like the Barbie meta movies, which at least will probably occasionally be interesting. I think Joker walked so Barbie could run. I'm not going to elaborate on that. Joker is to incels what Barbie is to... What?
We got that to look into.
Yeah, the meta franchise movies are going to be the new cinematic universe. So you got meta Barbie, you got meta Barney, meta Polly Pocket, etc. I'm interested to see. We're probably at a turning point in the cinema right now, and I'm kind of excited for it. Or not. I don't really know. It's a scary world for cinema right now. We're nearing the meltdown of cinema. Probably. But that's okay. I'll still watch my old Vinegar Syndrome tapes.
We could be seeing the start of a giant reset, really. I mean, with what it seems like is happening to big summer blockbuster tentpole movies, it seems like it's similar to what happened with studios in the 60s musicals, where people eventually got kind of tired of it, and then by the 70s, things kind of started to turn around, and studios gave a lot of creativity, creative freedom, and marketing behind artistically behind filmmakers with clear visions that made small, mid to low movies, not just geared towards the biggest common denominator possible, but to adults, craved an original story, and seeing something like that, you know, it's kind of interesting. Maybe that's where it'll go. I'm pretty, I'm holding my breath.
Yeah, I mean, I would like.
Time to tell.
I feel like the last 20 years hasn't been a good time for the idea of movies. You know, um, in terms of not just making products. Even something like 15 years ago, we had Transformers, and that felt like a lot more artistically inclined than a lot of what Marvel's putting out these days. I don't know if it's better than Marvel's factory format, but I would call it more artistically inclined than say the modern Transformer movie.
So fitting that you said 15 years. Because 15 years ago was 2008, and 2008 has its own Barbenheimer in a way because Dark Knight was released the same week as Mamma Mia, both did exceptionally well.
I never put that connection together, man. Christopher Nolan and
that's the interesting thing. People just went to see movies that they thought were interesting, seemed interesting, and here I am just hoping that you to where that's it's going to be again.
Right. I mean, I think I'm hoping we see a rise in more interesting cinema. I think Barbie and Oppenheimer being smash hits and being two of the more interesting movies of the year have proven that maybe general audiences aren't as stupid as people and perhaps critics and the executives think,
Yeah, I would agree. I think people are just starved for something new. We've seen the superhero stuff, and it's kind of like okay now what? So I think I hope that that's where it's headed.
Yeah, I mean, just give me the good superheroes. Batman, Spider-Man. Give me one of those every couple of years, and I would be a lot more happy. I like Matt Reeves' Batman. That was pretty good.
That was a movie that has gotten better. So I watched it.
Oh yeah, no, it's a pretty enjoyable.
4 or 5 times now, and I will say it's the best Batman.
Yeah, it's my favorite Batman movie. I might like The Dark Knight a little better as a movie, but
The Dark Knight is a better movie than just to have Batman.
Yes, it's a better movie that happens to have Batman. But if I'm in that comic booky Batman mood, I'm gonna throw on this. I do think Burton's and even the '66 movie have merit when it comes to comic accuracy. But if we're talking about modern Batman of the past 10 years, I think the most accurate you're gonna get is that Matt Reeves Robert Pattinson run movie, I suppose, not run.
As far as to say it's more comic accurate, Batman last 30 years, Frank Miller year one.
Oh yeah, I mean you got Frank Miller's run, Grant Morrison, very much inspired by that last 30 years, and then the next most comic accurate one is Adam West's Silver Age. People say Adam West, those are adaptations of those Silver Age stories. Perhaps they take themselves a little less seriously, a little more hammy than the Silver Age stories did, but they're not in a way not a terrible adaptation. And I'm interested to see what Matt Reeves comes up with for the sequels, because I assume this will be a trilogy.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there day one. I'm very interested.
Anyways, I think we're starting to wrap up. Did you have any other thoughts or things you wanted to shill?
No, just, this was fun.
Do you have any words of advice for the people? Like the 50 to 100 people who will watch this?
The I don't know. Just do something nice for someone.
That's a very good
Do a
piece of advice.
selfless act for someone today.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Do a selfless act for somebody. Um, support good movies too, not the shitty ones. Anyways,
Support the strikes. No.
yeah, support the strikes.
I'm not gonna pretend like I'm full of some like sage wisdom. I'm a fucking idiot.
Me too, but that's all right. This has been episode 6 of the Grant and Connor Power Hour. I'd like to put the guest's name first.
I appreciate it.
Which might be a little confusing since Grant Newkirk was my guest last week. So now this is a different Grant than Grant Newkirk, if you couldn't tell by the voice. I probably should have prefaced the episode with that. But yes, this is a different Grant than Grant Newkirk.
Hey, you're still in the infant stage.
We're new. I put his episode as Hierophant and Connor's Power Hour because Grant's YouTube name is Grant the Hierophant, and I thought it would be a little confusing if both episodes were called Grant and Connor's Power Hour, but one had a different Grant, so I just thought that'd be easier to differentiate. So that was our Power Hour. Grant, we'd love to have you on again. Next time, let's watch something, maybe something more, we tried to get into the politics of the Toxic Avenger. Maybe next time you come on, let's watch something more of political intrigue. We could do Dress to Kill. I still have to send that out to you.
Hey, I'd be open to it.
Yeah. Dress to Kill is a good movie. Quentin Tarantino covered it on his podcast. I bet we could be more insightful than him. Have more insights on filmmaking than Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. Well, what does he know?
What the fuck does he know? His opinions suck. And so do his movies occasionally. Not really. I like Quentin Tarantino. He's kind of like Christopher Nolan, where I'm like, this is the one where it's gonna suck. And I'm like, oh shit, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, with your initial message said something like going over a specific director's filmography, which seems kind of fitting. Back in January, I grew all of Quentin's work. I was like, sitting down and taking notes, just because I thought it was like an interesting exercise to see how someone can grow as well.
It evolves.
Yeah.
Hey, take those notes. We'll do an episode on Quentin Tarantino next. It seems like it's not uncharted ground in a podcast to talk about Quentin Tarantino, but I don't care. I talked about Scooby-Doo on the last episode. Two white guys in their 20s just chatting about Quentin Tarantino. It's going to be a novel concept.
We'll throw a curveball and bring up his use of the N-word. Or the feet. That's what we'll do. We'll make that.
We'll be like, I think I've noticed something that has gone unnoticed for many years with Quentin Tarantino, and that's his love of feet and usage of the N-word.
Yeah. Well,
we'll be breaking new ground. New barriers will be unmasked. It'll be great. So, all right, Grant. Next time I have you on, we'll do Quentin Tarantino. We'll get you on in the next few weeks. We'll do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like doing them.